This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump and Vladimir Putin hold one-on-one talks for ending the war in Ukraine. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The one-week mission into space for 2 astronauts is finally over after 9 months. I'm Rich Johnson.
60 years after his assassination, a trove of documents related to the death of President John F. Kennedy have been released to the public.
A member of the FBI's most wanted list arrested in Mexico. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, markets are coming off a losing day as investors continue to worry about an economic slowdown. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The Pentagon is aiming to cut up to 60,000 civilian jobs.
We welcome Doge to the Pentagon.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
And tennis players are taking event organizers to court. All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump engages in one-on-one peace talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Talks the presidents say were productive. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
We had a great call. It lasted almost 2 hours. Talked about a lot of things and toward getting it to peace. And we talked about other things also.
In an interview with Fox News' Laura Ingraham, the president laying out some of what was discussed between the two leaders. Chief among the items negotiated, an immediate ceasefire in attacks against Ukrainian energy infrastructure. However, Putin has yet to agree to the 30-day ceasefire the U.S. reached with Ukraine last week.
Russia has the advantage, as you know. They have encircled about 2,500 soldiers. They're nicely encircled, and that's not good. And we want to get it over with. Look.
The White House's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, telling Fox News this was an important step for Russia to make.
So I think there have been some breakthroughs. I would commend President Putin for all he did today on that call to move his country close to a final peace deal. And I would say, and I would give all the credit to President Trump.
A Kremlin readout of the meeting indicated Putin reiterated his demand for an end to all foreign military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine as part of a ceasefire deal. Trump was asked about that assertion.
No, he didn't. We didn't talk about aid, actually. We didn't talk about aid at all. We talked about a lot of things, but aid was never discussed.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reacted to the phone call by saying they are ready to support any peace proposals, but only if they are part of the negotiations. Russia also wants Ukraine to back away from their stated desire of entry to NATO, as well as other concessions. Trump says it's important the U.S. have a good relationship with Russia.
Putin actually said to me, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as my enemy. He said that very strongly. And that's a positive thing. That's not a negative thing. But at the same time, I'm about our country.
Shortly after the call, air raid sirens and explosions could be heard in Kyiv. John Stolnis, Washington.
Despite the agreement to limits on energy targets, there was still fierce fighting overnight. Ukraine reports that a hospital midway between the Russian border and Kyiv was hit, and one city was blacked out after their power infrastructure was damaged. The Kremlin announced that Russia and Ukraine agreed to a prisoner swap, with 175 soldiers on each side being returned today. The 2 astronauts who spent 9 months in Earth's orbit instead of just a few days are finally back here on Earth. Correspondent Rich Johnson has more on the landing of the SpaceX crew and what NASA is saying about the lessons learned.
And splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth.
The cheers at Mission Control in Houston as the SpaceX Dragon capsule landed in the Atlantic off the northern Florida coast, ending the mission of Crew 9. A crew that started with 2 members and came back to Earth with 4.
It's an amazing, what a ride. I see a capsule full of grins ear to ear.
Crew 9 Commander Nick Hague from the capsule just seconds after splashdown. Hague and Russian Alexander Gorbanov came back with Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, the 2 NASA astronauts who flew to the International Space Station on the Boeing Starliner spacecraft last June for what was supposed to be a week. But problems with the Starliner led NASA to keep Wilmore and Williams in orbit and created a domino effect of reassignments of other astronauts who were scheduled to fly to ISS. NASA Commercial Crew Mission Manager Steve Stitch told reporters everyone's pivot made the extra-long mission a success.
They launched on what was going to be a short test flight with the crew flight test vehicle with Boeing, and then they moved very quickly into station increment operations, and they became seamlessly part of the International Space Station.
Stitch said the two were never stranded in space, and it was their resilience and preparation that made those extra months productive.
Butch and Sonny, they enjoyed their time on station. They got to do spacewalks, and they got to do lots of cool science.
In fact, Williams went on 2 spacewalks and is now number 4 on the all-time list for spending time outside a spacecraft. After flying back to Houston and some medical checkups, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams will finally be reunited with their families in the next day or so. I'm Rich Johnson.
U.S. hunts down gang member in Mexico. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning, scanning the country. More showers for the West Coast today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton with the forecast.
As a new storm pushes in off the Pacific Ocean and swings through the West Coast today, it will mean the return of occasional rain to western parts of Washington and Oregon, as well as northern California and the far northern Central Valley, even the northern part of the San Francisco Bay Area. This will signal the start of the latest active pattern featuring a rather fast storm track that will bring at least 3 rounds of rain and heavy mountain snow, some lasting over extended periods of time through Sunday. However, after this first storm, it looks like most of California will get out of those stormy conditions through the weekend instead. Speaking of stormy conditions, though, the risk for severe weather returns to the middle of the nation as a strong but slowly weakening disturbance heads from the Central Plains toward the upper Midwest. This feature will remain potent enough to be able to tap into Gulf moisture streaming northward ahead of a cold front, with the warm, moist air serving as fuel for powerful thunderstorms that are expected to develop not far from a zone extending from southeastern Iowa through eastern Missouri and into Mississippi, pushing eastward from there. The southern part of the line may only reach as far as Alabama before losing some of its punch, but strong wind gusts, hail, and some tornadoes may be possible for a longer distance to the north into this evening, perhaps reaching the Detroit area and the western half of Ohio. Otherwise, places such as the interior west and the east coast are looking at a rather dry and nice Wednesday overall. The southern plains also stays dry enough for a continuing elevated fire risk from Texas and Oklahoma into New Mexico, though not as high as yesterday. In Memphis, expect a gusty day with a thunderstorm around, perhaps severe, with a high of 75. For Denver, it will also be breezy and chilly despite sun returning, the high just 46. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Don't forget you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. More than 60 years after he was gunned down in Dallas, the federal government released 80,000 pages of previously unseen files related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The National Archives and Records Administration started posting the long-awaited files just before 7 p.m. Tuesday night and includes over 1,100 unredacted documents. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard commented on President Trump's move to release the documents in an X post, writing that the president, quote, is ushering in a new era of maximum transparency, end quote. Fox News is reporting that due to the sheer volume of documents, it'll take several days to release them all. America in the Morning continues. An alleged MS-13 gang member on the FBI Most Wanted list is in police custody after being tracked down in Mexico. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
FBI Director Kash Patel says that Francisco Javier Roman Bardelas was arrested this week in the Mexican state of Veracruz by Mexican soldiers and by federal agents. The FBI was offering a $250,000 reward for information leading to that arrest. This as the Trump administration vows to crack down on MS-13 gang members and on illegal immigrants. In fact, the gang is one of several Latin American criminal organizations that the president declared a foreign terrorist group shortly after he took office. Borders czar Tom Homan told CBS's Face the Nation earlier this year that the policies of the Trump administration didn't take long to take hold.
For instance, El Salvador wouldn't take back MS-13 members when I was the ICE director. It took President Trump 48 hours to get El Salvador to take back their criminal aliens into their prisons. And Mexico didn't want to do the Remain in Mexico program, but President Trump was able to remain in Mexico, established in Mexico.
The FBI says Bardelas faces charges in the Eastern District of New York relating to several offenses for his alleged role in ordering numerous acts of violence against rival gang members and civilians. He also played alleged roles in drug distribution and extortion in the U.S. and in El Salvador. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Frontier Southwest Airlines feud explained when America in the Morning continues after these messages. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning for the final day of winter trading after a sell-off for stocks yesterday. The S&P 500 index dropped 1%, the NASDAQ down 1.5%. NVIDIA announced new Blackwell Ultra and Rubin AI chips, but shares fell 3%. Tesla shares tanked another 5% yesterday. The Fed announces a decision on interest rates this afternoon, but it's widely expected to hold them steady.
According to our own CNBC Fed survey, the street unanimously expecting the Fed to continue its pause in cuts for the March meeting. The decision coming amid broad market weakness and weak economic data points like consumer sentiment and retail sales. In fact, the Atlanta Federal Reserve is now forecasting a 2.1% decline in growth for the first quarter. That's far below Wall Street consensus.
CNBC's Sarah Eisen. Gold hit another new all-time high yesterday, $3,045 an ounce. Its 13th record high so far this year. Frontier Airlines taking a swipe at Southwest. On the day Southwest stops flying your checked bags for free, Frontier starts. It's calling it a divorce-your-old airline promotion.
Free checked bag, free assigned seats, free ticket change if you need to change your tickets. Why not make this a permanent move? Why is this only promotional through August?
Well, look, the bottom line is this is a game changer for us. We're going to offer you more for less. But if we don't get the volume, then we're going to come back to just being a level playing field. But either way, this is a checkmate situation for Frontier. Everyone can now see, millions of people can see that we're a better total price because we've seen what's happened and all of the outcry for free bags. We're giving people an opportunity to put their money where their mouth is and come make Frontier the new airline.
Barry Biffle joining us from Frontier's headquarters in Denver.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau and the CEO of Frontier. Wendy's competing with McDonald's, Burger King, and more by focusing on value and dessert.
We're in a challenging environment. How does Wendy's win in this environment? We're going to introduce an entire Frosty platform with Frosty Fusions, Frosty Swirls. Those things are the easy moments of joy.
Yes.
Would you agree?
I'm wondering how many calories.
Are you a Frosty fan?
I'm a Frosty fan. I want to know how many calories are in a Thin Mints Frosty. Well, I guess you don't do it for
as
that
many
reason.
as many as you need. That's how many are in there. Yeah.
It's delicious.
Wendy's CEO Kirk Tanner on CNBC with CNBC's Sarah Eisen and Mike Santoli. Solo Brands could file for bankruptcy protection. Retail Dive says the maker of stainless steel backyard fire pit Solo Stoves issued a going concern statement related to debt. On today's watch list, the Fed announces a decision on interest rates this afternoon. Earnings are coming from General Mills, Signet Jewelers, and Five Below, and it's the final day of winter trading.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, over 50,000 new government job cuts proposed. That's after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. More cuts are coming to the government workforce, this time at the largest office building in the United States. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports on Pentagon plans to eliminate up to 60,000 civilian jobs.
Defense Chief Pete Hegseth previewed the cuts last month, saying the Pentagon's waste and redundancies need to be addressed.
We welcome DOGE to the Pentagon.
The goal is to cut about 5 to 8% of the Pentagon's civilian workforce, roughly 50 to 60,000 jobs. A senior defense official says fewer than 21,000 workers who took a voluntary resignation plan will leave in coming months. So the plan is to slash about 6,000 positions per month by simply not replacing workers who routinely leave. A central concern is whether service members might be tapped to fill those jobs, but the official says Hegseth wants to make sure the cuts do not hurt military readiness. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Tennis players are taking their event organizers to court. Literally. Correspondent Gethin Coolball reports a filing in U.S. District Court in New York calls the groups in charge of tennis a cartel.
The Players Association, co-founded by 24-time Grand Slam champion Novak Djokovic, has filed an antitrust lawsuit against the women's and men's professional tennis tours, the International Tennis Federation, and the Sports Integrity Agency. The filing on behalf of the Professional Tennis Players Association says the organizations that run the sport hold complete control over the players' pay and working conditions, and their setup constitutes textbook violations of state and federal law that immunize professional tennis from ordinary market forces and deny professional tennis players and other industry participants their rights to fair competition. I'm Gethin Coolbach.
Join us tomorrow here on the program as we usher in a brand new event, the arrival of spring. America in the Morning for Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Chief Justice John Roberts is rejecting President Trump's call for impeaching a federal judge. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The U.S. says it stands by Israel as fighting resumes in the Middle East. I'm Clayton Neville.
What the two rescued astronauts will do now that they're home. A judge rules on Doge and USAID, plus death row inmate executed in Louisiana.
Charges in the Super Bowl week death of a Kansas City sports reporter now upgraded to murder. I'm Jeff McKay with the details.
Big money deal for Google to take over Wiz. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Back after these messages. We turn the page on winter 2025 tomorrow with today's forecast on America in the Morning. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A storm that was tracking eastward across the center of the country Tuesday evening will hang a bit of a left turn to move in more of a northeasterly direction through the day today. This change in motion will take the core of the storm into the Chicago area by day's end, bringing thunderstorms on the northern edge of today's severe weather threat that extends into the evening. Look for storms that may bring hail, damaging wind gusts, and even some tornadoes from southern lower Michigan and the aforementioned Chicago area southward through western Ohio, much of Kentucky and Tennessee, to around Interstate 20 in Mississippi and Alabama. These storms may first turn severe over far southeastern Iowa and around St. Louis today. The cold side of that same storm will carry a relatively narrow band of snow northeastward into the upper Midwest and western Great Lakes regions today, and as the band sets up from southwest to northeast as well, some parts of Nebraska, Iowa, southern Minnesota, and even Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan may be under that band for several hours, with localized blizzard conditions at times, leading to snow totals of 6 to 12 inches, with a small zone of up to 18 inches, perhaps including Marquette, Michigan. Expect a milder day for much of the eastern U.S. ahead of that storm as warm southwesterly flow picks up for many, with a dry day in store up and down the East Coast and even across the interior from the Northeast to Georgia. Even across the interior west, there should be little more than some lingering snow and flurries early this morning through the Colorado Rockies. Otherwise, a dry start for many along the west coast will give way to the first in a series of storms reaching the northwest through this weekend, bringing rounds of rain and heavy snow in the Cascades that can last through Sunday. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Despite an unusual rebuke from the Supreme Court's Chief Justice, President Trump continues to call for a federal judge to be impeached. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports on the dust-up between the executive and judicial branches as the House is moving swiftly to set up an impeachment vote.
Chief Justice John Roberts is rejecting President Trump's call for impeaching a federal judge who ruled against his deportation plans. It's an extraordinary show of conflict between two branches of government. In a rare statement, Roberts says it's been established for more than 2 centuries that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement over a judicial decision. The president this morning called for impeaching federal Judge James Boasberg, describing him as an unelected troublemaker and agitator. The judiciary's been one of the few restraints on his administration's aggressive agenda, and while the president has been criticizing them for weeks.
So maybe we have to look at the judges.
His call for impeaching them represents a sharp escalation. Only 15 judges have been impeached in the nation's history.
You cannot have a low-level district court judge filing an injunction to usurp the executive authority of the President of the United States.
In a social media post, the president ripped federal Judge James Boasberg, who has tried to stop the administration's deportations to El Salvador. The president writes, "This judge, like many of the crooked judges I'm forced to appear before, should be impeached." Allies like Elon Musk have made similar calls, but just yesterday,
I have not heard the president talk about impeaching judges.
spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt has also gone after judges.
In February, there have been 15 injunctions of this administration in our agenda. In 3 years under the Biden administration, there were 14 injunctions. So it's very clear that there are judicial activists throughout our judicial branch who are trying to block this president's executive authority.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Fighting resumes in the Middle East, and the United States is pointing to Hamas. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the update.
Ambassador Dorothy Shea said during a United Nations Security Council meeting that Hamas is responsible for the escalation of violence in the ongoing war between the Palestinian militant group and Israel. The Israelis hit Gaza hard with airstrikes in recent days, killing more than 400 people, this seemingly ending the ceasefire between the two sides, and Hamas says it will not release remaining hostages.
Hamas refused offer after offer to release our hostages. In the past 2 weeks, Israel did not initiate any military action in the hope that Hamas would change course.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that did not happen.
Palestinian civilians should avoid any contact with Hamas terrorists. And I call on the people of Gaza, get out of harm's way, move to safer areas. Because every civilian casualty is a tragedy. And every civilian casualty is the fault of Hamas.
David Mincer is an Israeli government spokesperson and responded to claims by Hamas that the Israeli strikes killed hostages.
We've become used to their propaganda by now. They are, of course, a genocidal terrorist organization. So everything they say should be seen within the remit of the fact that they are a genocidal, jihadi terrorist organization.
And Mincer insisted when speaking to reporters.
Enabling the enemy to resupply itself so it can regroup and reattack us, as our intel has very clearly shown, that is not humanitarian. It is suicidal, and we will not allow it.
The U.S. says that President Trump has made clear that Hamas must release the hostages that it's holding immediately, or pay a high price. I'm Clayton Neville.
NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams are finally back on Earth after what was supposed to be a few days turned into a 9-month adventure in space. Haya Panjwani looks at what caused their longer-than-expected journey and what the pair will do now that they're finally home.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and...
Almost all roads to space begin here in Cape Canaveral.
That's Marcia Dunn, the Associated Press's space writer.
She's following Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams' return home from the International Space Station.
So Butch and Suni became the first people, the first astronauts to strap into a Boeing Starliner capsule and be launched into space. This was last June. Here we are, more than 9 months later. This 8-day mission has turned into a 9-month marathon for them. The next day, as they're going into dock with the International Space Station, as planned, the thrusters start to fail. Helium is leaking. They got docked to the space station, and months started rolling by. We're now into the summer of 2024 because engineers on the ground could just not exactly figure what had happened. There are only 3 ways to get Americans back from the space station: SpaceX, the Russians, right, because they have their capsules coming and going, and also what should have been Starliner. They've been busy doing experiments. They got to do a spacewalk together. Sunny set a world record for most spacewalking time by any woman ever. They get to talk with their families almost every day with an internet phone. They got video hookups, but it's not the same as being there. And they have told us repeatedly that it's much harder on their families.
Now, when they come back to Earth, what's next?
They will be directly taken to Houston. You know, they have had astronauts up there as long as a year. They'll be treated the same, you know, and of course, any astronaut coming back after 6 months is not allowed to drive for a certain amount of period because, you know, you're wobbly when you get back, your muscles are weak, your bones are weak. They don't want you doing anything that could endanger you accidentally. Between the two of them, of course, they've been asked, what do you miss? What can't you wait to do besides hug your families when you get back? And Sunny can't wait to take her dogs for a walk, and Butch can't wait to get back to face-to-face ministering of his flock back home at his church in Houston.
Launch audio courtesy of NASA. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Fired government workers ordered rehired by a judge. After these messages. America in the Morning continues. Police in suburban New Orleans announce upgraded charges for a woman accused in a Kansas City sports reporter's death in the days leading up to the Super Bowl. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has details.
Aiden Manzano, who worked for a Kansas City Telemundo TV station, was found dead in his hotel room in Kenner, Louisiana, right before the Super Bowl. Danette Colbert was booked in connection with the death investigation after she was found to have a cell phone and credit cards. After toxicology reports and more surveillance video was analyzed, the charges have now been increased to second-degree murder. Manzano was found to have Xanax in his system, and his blood alcohol content was .232. That's almost 3 times above the legal limit. WDSU-TV in New Orleans reported that public records show Colbert has a lengthy criminal history. Investigators accused her of drugging and robbing men in the past. I'm Jeff McKay.
The State Department says South Africa's ambassador to the United States, who was declared persona non grata, has until Friday to leave the country. Secretary of State Marco Rubio determined that Ibrahim Rasool was no longer welcome in the United States, accusing the diplomat of being what he called a race-baiting politician, claiming he hates President Trump. The move comes after Trump signed an executive order halting funding to South Africa over what he called their government's anti-white policies and supporting Hamas and Iran. A judge finds that some of the efforts led by Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency may have been unconstitutional and has ordered nearly 25,000 workers to be rehired. Lisa Dwyer reports on a new ruling over the dismantling of USAID.
A federal judge has ruled that the dismantling of the U.S. Agency for International Development likely violated the Constitution and blocked billionaire Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from further cuts. The ruling orders the Trump administration to restore email and computer access to all employees of USAID, including those who were placed on administrative leave. In February, the Trump administration placed all but a fraction of the agency's worldwide staff on leave and notified at least 1,600 of its U.S.-based staffers that they were being fired in an effort to gut the 6-decade-old agency and as part of a broader push to cancel billions of dollars in foreign spending. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A Louisiana death row inmate became the first in the Pelican State to be put to death using nitrogen gas. Jesse Hoffman was executed last night. The first inmate to be put to death in Louisiana in 15 years was convicted in the 1996 rape and murder of a 28-year-old woman on the day before Thanksgiving. It's the 4th time nitrogen gas was used in an execution in the U.S. The other 3 were in Alabama. America in the Morning continues. The person who's believed to have been the last to see a University of Pittsburgh college student alive was in a courtroom in the Dominican Republic yesterday. Joshua Reeby, who has not been charged in the disappearance of Sudiksha Kanaki, is cooperating with authorities. He had his passport confiscated by police. He is said to be cooperating with authorities. Meanwhile, Kananki's parents have asked a court to declare their 20-year-old daughter dead. She's been missing now for more than a week. Searches of the waters near where she went missing continue, but her body has not been found. An historic deal in the tech world. Google's Alphabet is buying out the Israeli cybersecurity company Wiz in its largest cash deal to date. With details, here's tech reporter Chuck Palm.
Google's Alphabet company is set to buy Wiz for $32 billion in its biggest deal to boost cloud security. This huge price tag is a big jump from the $23 billion it offered in 2024 in order to help Google compete with Microsoft and Amazon. The next hurdle is whether or not this deal will clear the White House, even as the Trump administration has inserted itself into major deals and promised heavy scrutiny of big tech. The Israeli tech cybersecurity startup Wiz had rejected the $23 billion bid last year when it was valued at about $12 billion in private funding round last May. D.A. Davidson analyst Gil Luria said the higher price is based on another year of exponential growth for Wiz. He continued to say that for Google to be able to compete with Microsoft Azure for enterprise customers, it needs to be able to offer a deeper suite of services, including security software. For more tech stories, find me at chuckpalm.com.
Midweek Sports is in. Here's our Robert Workman.
The Dodgers downed the Cubs 4-1 in Major League Baseball's regular season opener in Japan yesterday. Yoshinobu Yamamoto went 5 strong innings for the win, and Shohei Ohtani had 2 hits and scored twice. The Tokyo Series concludes today. Opening day in North America is a week from Thursday. NBA, the Clippers cut down the Cavaliers 132-119. Kawhi Leonard had 33 points. That's back-to-back losses for first-place Cleveland, just their 3rd losing streak of the season. Celtics topped the Nets 104-96 for their 50th win. Warriors whacked the Bucks 104-93, and the Hawks hung up the Hornets 134-102. NCAA men's basketball tournament tipped off in Dayton with the first 4 doubleheader. Last night, Alabama State edged St. Francis of Pennsylvania 70-68 on a last-second layup by Amar Knox.
Couldn't have done it without my whole team. We executed a play that we practiced on all day in practice, our game plan, and it worked.
That earns the Hornets a date with overall number 1 seed Auburn in Lexington, Kentucky tomorrow. Much maligned North Carolina manhandled San Diego State in the second game, 95-68, leading by as many as 40. The Tar Heels are on their way to Milwaukee, where they'll meet South 6 seed Mississippi on Friday. The best of the rest are in the NIT. 7 first-round games at campus sites last night, including a triple overtime win for Chattanooga over Middle Tennessee. Hockey, the Canucks crushed the Jets 6-2, 2 goals apiece for Brock Baser and Pius Suter. Capitals got 3 in the third to clip the Red Wings 4-1. No goals for Alex Ovechkin. He's still 8 away from a new record. Tom Wilson reached the 30-goal mark for the first time in his career. Washington and Winnipeg tied for the NHL lead with 98 points. That's Wednesday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. The most popular dogs in the U.S. A new list when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Adam Sandler's latest upcoming Netflix movie is a blast from the past. Kevin Carr has details about the remake of a hockey player turned unlikely golf hero.
Legacy sequels are big business in Hollywood. Last year, Netflix had a hit on its hands with Axel F., the 30 years past sequel to the Beverly Hills Cop movies.
This isn't my first time in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I saw that. This summer's big Legacy sequel will also be on Netflix in the form of Happy Gilmore 2.
I haven't swung a club in years. I'm a little intimidated. All these guys hit it big now.
Last summer, Netflix greenlit the sequel to one of Adam Sandler's earliest hits. On Tuesday, the streaming giant dropped a teaser trailer for the upcoming film, which promises some of the same silliness that garnered such a fan base from the original, though maybe showing a little more maturity.
I guess I need to update my happy place to something a little more age appropriate.
The story follows a hockey player turned championship golfer who comes out of retirement to compete with some of the biggest names in the game.
I don't know where to start. Come on, brother. Grip it and rip it.
Some of the original cast is returning, including Ben Stiller and Julie Bowen.
We're not done with golf. Let them see the happy I fell in love with.
Christopher McDonald is also returning as Shooter McGavin, as seen in a teaser that dropped over Christmas.
Gilmore. Big Jack.
Even though the film will premiere exclusively on Netflix, it's been given a summer tentpole release date of July 25th.
Yeah. Let's go.
See you on the Leaks, Hap. I'm Kevin Carr.
When it comes to our pooches, we all have our favorites, whether it's the Dachshund, Labrador Retriever, Poodle, Labradoodle. Correspondent Julie Walker has a look at the latest list of popular dog breeds.
The comical, controversial French Bulldog tops the American Kennel Club's annual list of the nation's most popular breeds for a third year, says the AKC's Brandy Munden.
The Frenchie is highly adaptable. It is a fun dog that really likes to cuddle and be with their owner. It doesn't require much exercise, and people find that it works well living in smaller spaces like apartments or larger spaces like homes. So it has become definitely a breed that people seek to own quite regularly.
The list continues with Labrador Retrievers, Golden Retrievers, German Shepherds, Poodles, and coming in at 14, the Cane Corso, which was 47 a decade ago.
Larger breeds tend to not rank necessarily as high on the most popular list.
Munden says the list is not meant to be a shopping guide.
Each breed requires different things. They require different mental stimulations and exercises, and you want to make sure that you're getting a dog that fits your lifestyle so that you can be the best owner for the dog. Just because the dog is cute and just because the dog is popular does not mean that it is the right dog for you.
Julie Walker, New York.
Your local Humane Society may be the best place to find your next pet. They'll match you with man's best friend, and you may just save the life of an animal at risk. America in the Morning for Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.